Hi, and good morning, and welcome to the Science of Mind lecture series here on New Thought. It's great to be here, coming live from the UK. My name is Laura Topper, and I'm a practitioner here with New Thought Media Network, and I am really excited and looking forward to bringing you today's theme topic, or today's learning on more on this amazing book. As you can see, a copy that I've had for quite a while, and I love it, and I refer to it and I use it, and so being here now feels a blessing, feels like a and creating this incredible that was an amazing lecture that he gave with the Science of Books. So we're moving on a little bit further to bringing it all home. I mean, what that's like, there was a lot. I invite you to just ponder on that for a moment, what that means for you to bring since the beginning of the year. So if you've been working following, you'll know that the it that Ernest Holmes taught is this thing itself, this powerful thing, and that we can use. It's a powerful thing. So when we think about bringing it all home, this can have so many ways of leaning into this, and I want to bring these to you. This mean and how use this incredible teaching philosophy. So before we begin, I'm just going to invite us to close a few seconds here to take a breath in and to center yourself. Presence is here. That there is a wisdom and intelligence, and so we're going to delve in so that we can expand our experience of this thing called life. And let's begin. Bring it all home. First, what does home mean for us? You know, we can think about living safe and feel nudged and feel free to live in this home that we create. And from a spiritual perspective, what does it mean for you? Home, I know spiritually, it's like there's this kingdom of heaven that is home, that we can bring in, put the notes into our heart and open up to. We're always so busy. Or maybe there are things that we want to change. You know, all last year, I mean, I'm sure for me, of them. Home was not where and we all get to go on it. It's a bit like the hero's journey. Turn on the way. So it talks about the kingdom of heaven being within. Glossary. We can separation between my consciousness and the consciousness is within each of us, and yet we separate ourselves by believing that outside of our home is where everything's happening, and the effect of life really is where we gauge the goodness of our lives. And yet what we're being called to do is come back within, to really reside in that home, that kingdom of heaven. You know, Ernest Holmes also says that it's the recognition of our oneness, divine design, which is creation and can only be discerned spiritually. So we are being called to turn away from the effect, to turn away from material, to turn away from this outer, from the world, to come in and to bring it all home. So what is this? And how do we bring it all home? Well, for me, I believe that it's about being open to have a direct experience with the divine. A direct experience. What does that mean? It means the knowing that there is no separation. Complete. It's not easy in our lives and in our experience to come to that place of serenity. And that's where spiritual mind treatment comes in. Of how we see our lives to be, or the experience of life to be. So in the textbook, Ernest for and he talks about, under the heading, the need for there is no medium between God between heaven and hell, but an idea. So we are the ones that have this perception. We place meaning on our experience, on what we are living, on how we see, on what things mean. We place a meaning on it. And most of the time we're placing judging. So last year when I was kind of hopping around from home to home. And the places that I was staying in, I didn't feel good in, I didn't feel comfortable in, and I was placing my own judgment on that experience. And it was until I realized, really through practice and through mentoring with spiritual prayer partners and spiritual guides, that everything is God expressing. So where I was placing a judgment, I was creating a separation. I was creating a false lie within myself that I was separate from what was happening, and yet it's all my experience. It is all happening in, as, and through everything, through me, through you right now. So Ernest Holmes continues in this part to say, an idea has no real value until it becomes an experience. We need spiritual experience. We shall never know peace until we enjoy it. We shall never know truth until truth, and we cannot know God unless we sense God within our own being. The Spirit is ever giving. We must take what life does for us through us. So that's like that, where we hear in this teaching quite often, are we going to the ocean with a thimble, or going with like a huge kind of trough to receive the goodness that is here? And that goodness is our health, our prosperity, our well-being. What are we going with? How big, how large is the vessel of the yes that we're saying yes to, knowing that this flow, this spirit, this consciousness, this energy is who we are, and it's available to us in each and every moment. And yet we say, I'm able, because this, judging that, not being present and complete, and now it comes in here, because I believe that if we expression we're experiencing right now, that's not always easy, is it? That is not always easy. And yet being asked to bring it all home, bring it all into our experience, to open up to what we may think is good, bad, and right and wrong, and should and shouldn't, to coming from that place. God is perfect. Perfect God, perfect human, perfect being. Ernest Holmes wrote that because what he was saying is that God in his action is coming through. So coming through each of us in our perfection. Is perfect. You choose to close the door and to shut down and cut us off our good that is always here. But Ernest talks about, what I like to talk about, responsibility, taking responsibility. And I'm not talking here because I want you to be prepared. And it comes right up responsibility. No matter how great a responsibility may rest in that which must be done, never once a moment, one moment responsibility, resting one thought about it. Because that's which mind is, and every idea is bound to produce an effect exactly like its cause. And what this continues to say, which I will read, this is the piece. What The responsibility of setting the law in motion is ours, but what I'm saying here is that we are not responsibility for how this thing works, for how it works, and yet it's our job to take responsibility for what we are, feeling, for the meaning that we're placing on this. So we've got to take this responsibility. I'm running through some things here to open you up, to open your mind up to how you can see from a different perspective, and there is no seeking outside. We bring it all home. So to bring it all home, we're called to take responsibility for our values, for of our intention, for our actions. It's working. And it is responding to every thought, feeling, attitude, action. And so we take responsibility for placing into the law. We are not responsible for the law working. It's doing that. It's doing that. I don't know why. It should be good because my internet here is so it's working better now. Being responsible, taking responsibility because we bring it all home, and the it is this powerful good news. It's already here. Now we need to bring it. We say yes to the greater, to the infinite that Reverend Robert was talking about last week. Spiritual experience. We need to be open for doing work, which really isn't the work, it's what we're called to do. It's a very clear spiritual practice. But for Ernest Holmes, talks about the and being aware so that we know that when we can come back to the thing and this one presence that is working for us in every moment. And we always looking at the effect of our lives. We're busy which of course is real. Ernest Holmes talks about that. We don't deny the experience. It's odd. And yet we're rather than and in this place there's no We're too busy about how back home, calling us back into this place of divinity. My message is all chopped up. Well, I'm going to keep going because I know that it will be fine. And I'm affirming that it'll be fine on the preview. So I will keep going here. So Ernest Holmes in here, a large section in here is the teaching of Jesus. Ernest Holmes put in a lot about Jesus. He talks about the parables because he saw Jesus as an example, not as an exception. So when Ernest writes about Jesus in Science of Mind, he's not speaking as if Jesus is a person who has this magical kind of ability that no one else has. He's seeing Jesus as an example of how we can each be. This Christ consciousness that Ernest Holmes talks about, the I am of the I am that is within each of us. We're not separate from it. And this ultimately is where home lies. When we know this I am, that is the I am, that we are, that I am, then we're in a place of being open to understanding more fully that this I am is everywhere. It is in each of us. So that means that we can have a different attitude to the way that we are with others in the world. I mean, this is a really beautiful topic here, because what I also feel is that when we know this in our hearts, we start understanding that we're each a unique divine expression here, doing what we're doing, showing up in our different ways, in that multiplicity, if you like. And so we can come back to having this sense of regard and kindness and love for one another. And it starts with knowing who we are, and it starts with coming home, bringing it all home. So I'm going to ask you, what are you doing in your daily life? What are you doing in your spiritual practice to really build this knowing within you of who you truly are? And I'm not judging this, because this is an opportunity always for us to up level, to use these tools, to use spiritual mind treatment. Ernest Holmes talks about coming into the silence, because that is where he found this knowing. That's where he connected with this knowing. In silence, in prayer, in that place where he knew that there was a sacredness, and he revealed to himself a deeper knowing of who he is. And so when he's teaching in this book, he's not teaching from a place of, he's had the direct experience. And I think that's why he wrote so many books in so many ways, because he was so excited about this revelation that came through him, because he understood that it wasn't just available for him. It was available for everybody. And he opened up and he brought it all home within himself. And that's what the textbook in different ways is, and different messages and different chapters and different levels is teaching us. So when we pick up this textbook, there's always something that we can read that reminds us that we are bringing it all home, and we can bring it all home in our own unique way. So I'm just seeing what else I have. So I've marked here at the back in the glossary this This idea of unity, the oneness of God and human and the human, the enlightened in every age have taught that back of all things there's one unseen cause. There's no record of any great thinker who's taught duality. This teaching of unity is the chief cornerstone of the sacred scriptures of the East, as well as our own sacred writings. It's the mainspring of the teachings of modern philosophies, such as unity and the New Thought movement, and religious science. And science has found nothing to contradict this, and it never will. For the teaching is self-evident. An entire chapter of this book is based around unity. There is one life of which we all are a part, one intelligence which we use, one substance which is brought into manifold manifestation, and one principle, as Jesus taught, that they may all be one, even as thou, Father, art in me, as I in thee, and they also in us. So unity is really powerful, and it's really related to this, I believe, bringing it all home. Because if we are feeling, or if we are living, or in this place of separation, then we are believing that we are in our own little home, on our own, struggling and striving, and in a sense of limitation and lack, and that we're having to do it all by ourselves in our own little home. And I don't believe that the ultimate of this, bringing it all home, is what this means. Home is this unified experience where there is no separation, where we are not doing that heavy lifting all by ourselves. So we hand it over. We hand everything over to the divine. When we don't know how or why or where or what or when, we hand it over. And we hand it over and we surrender in faith. Now, surrendering is not giving up. It is not a sense of victimhood. It is not kind of lying down and giving up and just having enough of it all. Surrendering is a willingness to say, this is not my part. This is the part of the divine. This is the part of God. This is for God to do. And I'm going to step back. I think stepping away is a more, I find it to be a better word or two words than surrendering. I'm stepping out of this and I'm allowing God to do its thing. But that's not always what we do, is it? We try and meddle with it. We try and manipulate it. We want it to happen on our time, not on the divine's time. We're too busy trying to make it happen as we think it should be happening. And that isn't what we're asked to do. Bringing it all home is simply to open up in faith, to step away, to surrender, and to allow God to live through us as love, as joy, as peace, as prosperity, as harmony, as equilibrium. That's what bringing it all home is. And from there, we build a foundation that isn't a foundation that's built on sand. It's a foundation built on solid ground because God is underneath it. And all too often we try and first build our home on a wish and a prayer, a wish and a kind of a dream and a maybe and it might. And yet when we build our lives in faith of God, not in God, the faith of God, the faith of the divine, we open up to a greater expression of who we truly are. And that is the prize. That is the gift. That is where we get the golden buzzer. Yeah, that's where the golden buzzer goes off. I pray that my message is easier now and not so, that it's easier and flowing through. If you're watching, can you please let me know if this is easier now to watch? Because we're talking about bringing it all home. And I want you to feel, even if the message is choppy, I want you to feel through the vibration of my voice and my sound and the words that are coming through, that home, the kingdom of heaven, is within you now. It is within each of us. And Ernest Holmes knew this. Ernest Holmes was, as a child, he grew up and he was known as the eternal question mark, because he was always asking how. He didn't settle. He wanted to know how all of this works. He was so interested and he got on people's nerves. He really bugged people because he wouldn't let go. He wanted to know to the nth degree about a spirituality, about metaphysics, about life, philosophy, how life works, psychology, religion. He was an interested party. He wanted to know. And then something switched in him. He kept wanting to know and he kept learning, and then something switched in him. And he kind of moved from the eternal question mark to the great synthesizer. And what he did was he synthesized all of his knowledge, all of his understandings, all of his teachings in his heart. He put them together into this because he knew that there were so many great teachers, there were so many great learnings and scriptures and understandings and wisdom teachings, and he had to synthesize it and piece it together. And the one thing that he knew from all of this is that we are already home. And yet we lock ourselves out of that home. We lock ourselves out. We purposefully deny ourselves of the good that is in the home. And we walk out without the key and we try and get back in. Well, we can always get back in. The thing is, there's steps to it. And if we're going to open up and bring it all home, we have to be willing. We have to be willing to say yes to who we are. And we do this in prayer. We do this in meditation, where we can sit in that sacred silence, just as Ernest Holmes did. Much better, not as choppy, getting more of my message. Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you here today. It needed to settle down. I think it was my high energy. Is there a question? Does anybody have a question around this? Is there anything you would like to add? Any comments? It's great to be with you. I'm here in the UK. And where are you in the world on this beautiful planet? Let me know. Type in your question here. We're talking about this universal principle, which is, unity, freedom. Let's know who we are. Let's not mess around anymore with all of this. Let's understand who we are in truth. We are the divine expression of the divine that is expressing. And we're already home. And yet, are we feeling good? Are we feeling fulfilled? Are we feeling lifted? Because there are many levels here of this consciousness. And for us to move up and open up to those higher stages, if you like, or states of awareness, stages of awareness, we need to be ready and we need to be open. We need to be open. So what else am I talking about here? And bringing it all home. So we need to be open for spiritual experience. Now, for some, that may feel, the last part of the book is about teachings of Jesus. Will we be covering some of those teachings specifically? Thank you so much for asking. Well, you know what? We have got, Roy, if you can hear me now, better, we have got another 10, maybe 10 minutes or so. And what I really wanted to do was to run through a speed run. I don't know if I can do it speedily because it's a big piece of work, but I really wanted to run through the prodigal son, because the prodigal son is one of the parables that Ernest Holmes zoomed in on. He loved this story. It's an allegory, and he knew it, and it's a parable really, but he knew it. And there's a whole big section in here on the prodigal son, which I'm just trying to find the page. Here we are. And the reason that I picked this out was because really this is all out. You know, the prodigal son left home. He left home. And he went wandering, you know, and he took his father's riches. He took his that part of his will, that portion of the will. Your book is huge. The pages do not coordinate with my book, so please mention sections, not pages. Okay, the section that we are in is the teachings from Jesus, and we are in the two sons. The two sons. And the bit before that is God turns to us when we turn to God. So I know you don't have a page number, but we're in the 5th section from the teachings of Jesus. God turns to us as we turn to God. This is the parable of the prodigal son. It constitutes one of the greatest spiritual lessons in the history of religious education. It's an attempt on the part of the great teacher to show that God turns to us when we turn to God, that there is a reciprocal action between the universal and the individual mind, that the Spirit is ready to help us whenever we turn to it. Now, we're doing this in our own house. We're bringing it all home. But metaphysically, this home is the home of the divine. This is the individual mind that we are. And there's no separation of us and the universal mind. Of course not, because we're one. God is everywhere as everything. God is love and God is law. The love of God is omnipresent and the law of God is omnipresent. So Jesus taught that it is done unto us as we really believe. So it is here, and it is doing unto us as we believe. So if we believe that we have to leave home, that we have to run away to find King that is out there somewhere, then we're living a kind of temporal experience. We're kind of chasing a rainbow. I mean, I know I've got my rainbow behind me, but that's not because I'm chasing it. That's because I'm living in it. We don't want to chase the rainbow. We want to be the rainbow. And the prodigal son had an idea that if he had his father's money, or the money that was meant for him in the will that would have been left for him, if he had that money, and if he left home, and if he went and lived a frivolity really, where he didn't take responsibility. And this was the part I was talking about before, taking responsibility, responding, being able to respond appropriately. That if we do that, we think it will be out there outside of our home. No. It all went a bit sour for the prodigal son because he ran out of his money. You know, he used it and he was left deserted. He was left in a place where he didn't know where to turn. And then what did he do? He outstretched his hand. And when we outstretch our hand, when we open up, which is what prayer is doing, because the solution is always in the prayer. When we're opening up and using prayer and outstretching our hand and meditating and being aware of our connection of who we truly are, when we're doing that, we're opening up, we're being the home. We're being the greater expression of that home because it is already in us, as us, through us. And the prodigal son reached out. And as he reached out, his father put his hand into his hand and said, I'm here. I never went anywhere. I'm always here for you. And whatever you did wasn't a mistake because I'm accepting you right now as who you are. And I'm telling you, you're welcome back here. And the kingdom that I have for you is far greater than you could ever have imagined. And you went running around looking for it, matey. And it's already here. And you had to learn. You had to learn that by thinking that you could run, that it was somewhere out there and you would find it. And you came home. Bringing it all home. So I'm really apologizing that, the first part of this video was so choppy because I said a lot in here in the first part about home. And I'm just going to recap that before we go because there's a lot and I want to recap and just summarize in a few moments. Our home is the space on a physical level, is the space that we create, that we feel safe, secure, nurtured. It's a foundation. We're protected in our home. It's a place where we get to be free, to love ourselves, to express ourselves, and to love others that are living with us in that home. Metaphysically and spiritually, our home is the place where we know that we are safe, that we are loved, that in this home, there is this absolute space for all of the gifts of God for us to embrace. However, we often choose to look outside of our home, to think that elsewhere is where it's at and where it's happening. We don't recognize and embrace and embody that it's all here within. We are the home. We are the walking, moving, action-based home. We don't need to go out and look elsewhere for it. What is it? It is the kingdom of heaven. It is the divine. It is the universal consciousness and the individualized consciousness. It is everywhere. And that it is love, is joy, is prosperity, is health, is freedom, is everything we could ever dream of desiring for our lives. And it is available right now. And yet we shut the door and lock ourselves out of our home because we think it's somewhere else. We think we have to go searching elsewhere. We're too busy trying to manipulate the experience rather than coming back and landing in this place, in home, to open up. So what do we use? We use prayer. We use meditation, just like Ernest Holmes did, to reveal. We reveal, we open up, we get clearer. We get a sense of awareness of our connection because the connection is always there, but we shut ourselves off. So we open up and we take responsibility. This is everything I talked about. We take responsibility, not for the process. We're responsible for what we place into the law because the law is always working. So we're taking responsibility for ourselves, for the atmosphere of our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions, our actions. We take responsibility for who we are, for the values we align with, for the values we create, and for living by those values. We're not responsible for the law working. That God is that's happening 24/7 the whole time. So we're responsible for ourselves. This is a big part of this teaching where many just fall by the wayside. And I know you don't because you're here. But this is a part of the teaching where people say, there's a God out there and I don't need to do anything because God's doing it all. No, this God is in here and we're bringing it home, responsibility for our experience of life, of our reality. We are in our spiritual mind treatment, we are changing we're experiencing life from a different perspective, a higher, newer perspective, where we then realize unity. And I've talked about all of this in this hour. We come to a place of unity where we're not separate. I'm not separate from any of it, and it isn't separate from any of you and me are one. We are one. There is no spot where God is not. And we are each it, expressing ourselves individually as one. So when we judge something, we are judging God. Have you ever thought of it in that way? When we're judging something and putting meaning on it because we think we don't like it, we are judging God. So our work is to open up, to know that this too is God expressing all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it, every single part of it is God expressing. And when we get there, we open up and we are bringing it home. We are allowing ourselves to experience it in the home that is always here for us, the kingdom of heaven, which is within. All in here. And I just feel, like there's so much more I could talk about. And yet I feel the messages come through, and that you, if there's any questions, please put them in the box, because I want to know what your questions are for this, if you got my summary. So my invitation for each of us is to absolutely willingly expand our meditation practice, to expand our practice in spiritual mind treatment, to use spiritual mind treatment more for our lives. It's a tool that was developed by Ernest Holmes, a practice, because he knew that with this practice, we open up in our awareness of who we are, a greater awareness of who we are. So when we're using spiritual mind treatment, we're not using it to get something. That's the last thing we're using it for. That won't work. We're using it to get ourselves. We're using it to get into the knowing of who we are. That's the only get. We're using it to get a deeper awareness of our connection to the divine. And from that place, everything then appears. It pops up in experience in the most amazing ways for our lives. It really does. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's how it happened, through my opening up to who I truly am. So this is not about me. When I'm saying that, that's why you're here too. That's why we're here, because we're each on our own journey of learning and growing and committing to that practice of aligning more deeply to who we truly are, truth. That's what this is all about. So that is my share for today. If you've enjoyed this, then leave a comment in the box. It's my first time that I've given a talk here on the lecture series, and I feel very grateful and humbled to be invited to do this, and I affirm that I will be back at some point to share again. But I know that next week we have an amazing lecture from, here we go, Reverend Victoria Bombery, and she's talking about activation. That's next week on the Science of Mind lecture series here on New Thought Media Network. I know that you love this network, as we all do, and I know that you'll stick around and stay here and watch all of the other shows that are coming up on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you are. If you like this, please leave a comment. And of course, Diana. Hi, Diana. Great to be with you. Oh, that's so nice that you both said that. I love that. Thank you, Roy and Diana from California. Great message and energy. Thank you. Well, it's, that is, what you say is who you are. So thank you for your message and energy and for being here and supporting this. And another thing that I'd like to just add on here is that we each get to use these principles and these practices so that we have a deeper, more fulfilled experience of life. And it's not about the possessions that we're trying to gain or get, or that we think will make things better. Yes, that is, of course, we have a standard of living and we want that for our lives. And yet this runs so much deeper, because this is where the rainbow kind of meets the pot of gold. And for me, it's that way round. The pot of gold is there. And so many of us, we're kind of enticed into the pot of gold. Ooh, got to get in there. How do I get that? Well, this is how we get that. We come home and we bring it home right now. And we live from that place. That's the exciting place to be in. Yes. That is me for this week. Love and blessings to you. New Thought Media Network is an incredible ministry, Centers for Spiritual Living Focus Ministry that is unfolding at exponential rates with the vision of Reverend Robert Brzezinski, who is the Senior Minister of New Thought Media Network. And if you feel that you have this heart and soul and mind connection with the network, and you'd like to kind of weave your financial consciousness into this network, you are most welcome. There is a love offering donation button below that you can just click and leave a regular offering or a one-off. Really, it's for you to decide how you feel, where you are kind of feeling that you're getting that yes for your life. And we know the law of reciprocity is a wonderful thing. So great to be here with you, and have an amazing day wherever you are. And I will see you on Monday on the Cosmic Prayer at 6:30 with my super guests, Reverend Adrian and Kevia Moore. That'll be great. That's at 6:30 UK, 6 o'clock UK time, no, 5 o'clock UK time, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Until then, here's my little outro. I love Tiffany. Blessings to you.